Good afternoon to you. This is, of course, the Real Talk with me, Jamie, right here on Relax Radio. Hope you are having yourself an amazing day so far. We have the most interesting conversation here at Relax Radio. So, if you just want to chill, if you want to keep yourself updated, if you want to just have good conversation and good company, well, all you got to do is make sure that you keep it tuned right here on Relax Radio. Now, before we get into the topic of discussion today, we've been talking about toxic positivity and we've had a lot of questions with regards to that topic. So I thought I needed to speak on it a little bit more. But before we get into that, earlier on as well, I did talk about this, but I just want to remind you that there are new travel bans in place, that there are a few countries that have been banned, or travel has been banned to these countries. That is Philippines, Pakistan, Kenya, Bangladesh is to be banned from next week, according to the government, because they are being added to England's red list amidst concerns about the spread of the new COVID-19 variant. So I just wanted to keep you updated with regards to that. I did give you a full review of what is happening with regards to travel restrictions in the UK, but I also do want to remind you to we had a conversation about COVID passports, and a lot of you, or rather, there is a lot of different perspectives out there. I told you how a lot of people are criticizing the COVID passports, saying that it is actually dangerous, discriminatory, and counterproductive. But of course, there is two sides to the story, and I would love to hear what your perspective is. Do you think the COVID passport is actually productive? Do you think it's going to make our economy as a whole thrive a lot more, because people are now aware of, if they've had COVID or if they've been tested, or so on and so forth. So there are trials with regards to the COVID passport that is supposed to be happening very soon in different venues, and a review is taking place into whether passports could help to reopen the economy in England, with the discussions also taking place across devolved nations. Now, with that being said, the reason I said this is because I do want to hear what you think. So if you want to connect with us, have a conversation with us, tell me your opinion. I truly do value your opinion. So you feel free to contact me or connect with me on our social media. That is Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You could just drop a comment down below. You could contact us on our WhatsApp, and I would love to have a conversation with you. With that being said, let's move into the topic of discussion today, which is a toxic positivity. Now, if you are just joining in, if you are just tuning in, well, then welcome to you. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. But we've had a very extensive conversation about toxic positivity. And I told you this is, of course, the real talk, where we talk about things that are real, where we talk about things that are, well, we have conversations that are kind of hard to have, but are necessary and essential to be had. Now, toxic positivity as a whole is a conversation like that, just because there is a lot of misinterpretations out there with regards to this topic. Now, if you are just tuning in, then let me just give you a recap of what we spoke of so far. I told you that toxic positivity is basically this belief that no matter how hard or how difficult a situation is, people should maintain this positive mindset. It's this whole good vibes only approach to life. Now, I know you're probably thinking, oh, but Jamie, you always talk about positivity. You always talk about how it is about being positive and spreading positivity, which is absolutely true. You should never stop being positive. You should always try to spread as much positivity as possible. But with that being said, there is a point where this kind of positivity gets toxic. And that essentially happens when you start to ignore other emotions and mask other emotions that you feel as a human being with this facade of happiness, with this facade of toxic positivity. And that's where it gets positive, or that's where it gets toxic, rather. I told you how how it can be harmful. I told you how it avoids authentic human emotion. We did have a conversation with a caller a few minutes back, and his point, basically, if you didn't hear it, well, his point was that it's always good to be positive despite what you feel. But see, at the end of the day, what happens? It kind of avoids human emotion. At least that's my perspective, because I believe that toxic positivity functions as an avoidance mechanism. It's not essentially a coping mechanism rather, but it's basically an avoidance mechanism. So when other people engage in this type of behavior, it allows them to avoid this emotional situation, and it almost dismisses the certain human emotions, right? People say, "Oh, why are you sad? You don't have to feel heartache. You don't have to feel sad. Instead, be happy." Whereas emotions like sadness or emotions like hurt, emotions like heartache are things that you learn from and are things that helps you grow. Now, when you do have this facade of positivity, facade of happiness all the time, what happens is it prevents growth, right? It allows us to avoid feeling things that might be painful, but it also denies us the ability to face challenging feelings that can ultimately lead to growth. Now, with this being said, this is already conversation that we already had. But what I do want to talk about is something very interesting. I want to remind you how to actually avoid the toxic positivity. Okay, so first of all, I want you to look at yourself for a second. Ask yourself, do you have a tendency to use positivity as an avoidance mechanism? You're too afraid to feel anything, or you're too afraid to deal with your emotions, such as grief, such as depression. Therefore, do you use positivity as an avoidance mechanism? First of all, ask yourself that question. And if you do, that's perfectly fine, because let's together figure out certain ways and certain things we can do to avoid this whole toxic positive situation. Now, if you've been affected by toxic positivity, or if you recognize this kind of behavior in yourself, there are things that you can do to develop a healthier, more positive, and a supportive approach. Now, the first idea is that you need to manage your negative emotions, but don't deny them. Now, this is what a lot of us forget. This is what a lot of us don't understand. What you need to understand is that negative emotions can cause stress when unchecked. We've been talking about this. I've told you how being looking at your past mistakes or regretting things over and over again can definitely cause a lot of stress. But listen, what you need to remember is that they can also provide important information that can lead to beneficial changes in your life. So I know it's not something that can magically be understood or be comprehended, but it is something that you need to try to do. Manage your negative emotions. Don't linger on, depression or a sad state of mind or heartache or whatever it is, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you deny all of this emotion. So, what I want you to do is understand why you're feeling that way and try your best instead of putting on this mask or facade of happiness and positivity. I want you to acknowledge your negative emotions and do whatever it takes to, get rid of that negative emotion. Secondly, I want you to be realistic about what you should feel. When you are facing some kind of stressful situation, I want to remind you that it's absolutely normal to feel stressed and worried or even fearful. It's a part of being human beings. Every single, I promise you, trust me when I say every single human being on this planet, no matter how strong, no matter how capable they are, feels stressed, feels overwhelmed, feels worried at some point in their life. I want you to remember to not expect too much from yourself. I want you to be easy on yourself, forgive yourself, focus on self care and taking steps that can help improve your situation. Thirdly, I want you to remember that it's okay to feel more than one thing. Okay, when someone expresses a difficult emotion, if somebody expresses this kind of difficult emotion, I want you to remember that it's possible to feel nervous about the future and also hopeful that you will succeed. You could have contradicting emotions. That's just a part of being human as well. Trust me, human beings are so confusing to say the least. Human emotion is confusing to say the least. So it's okay. I'm telling you, it's absolutely okay if you're feeling a lot of things at the same time. Just make sure that it doesn't eat you up and that you cannot function because of your emotions. Your emotions are as complex as the situation itself. So always be easy on yourself. Forgive yourself. If you had a target that you couldn't accomplish, that's okay. You could always try tomorrow. Try a little bit harder tomorrow. And if you improve 1%, then trust me, you are as successful is going to get. Now, that is my little take on toxic positivity. But obviously, I know that is just my perspective. If you have different perspectives, like I always say, I would love to hear from you. So make sure that you do connect with us and let us know what is going on.